All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.co's daily brief. Let's make sure we got play into action on YouTube. Here it comes. All right, hello everybody. We're live on YouTube, so nice to see everybody. We're back in the saddle. We got another action-packed hour of frivolity for you, and I see we have a nice full lounge. So way to go, everybody, on piling in and getting to the adults table. And sorry, kids. It's always fun to watch you guys jockey for position. But anyway, we've got Thomas the Bear in the house, and we've been having some fun with the Bitcoin chart here. We're at kind of dangerous levels here. We'll talk a little bit about what we're doing here in the market, but I actually do see an interesting, very high stress, high anxiety trade setup here against these previous lows, but I often see 113s play. So, well, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the bear actually threw on a couple longs on this tag. It almost felt like a total FU move here, but, you know, we'll talk about that in a bit. How are you doing, Mr. Bear? Might as well check in and say hello.
I just fired my long. I'm sitting here on pins and needles.
There you go. And, you know, that's a trader's life, you know. I mean, it's not easy, but I do remember last night, I sort of came back. Oh, yeah, I had a very interesting afternoon yesterday. But anyway, came back and I was looking at these kind of charts and just going, oh, gee whiz, this looks awfully heavy. And I think also, too, we had on a stamp chart or something like that. I can't remember where I'm a little discombobulated here this morning. And it showed that there were some gaps on the chart. In fact, probably put it in the lounge if somebody can find it. We see Joshua sort of hanging out down below, just kind of goading the market to break down. Come on down to my levels. Come on down to my levels. So, you know, really, really important level here. And if we fail and just simply can't hold this level, then I do believe we could dip substantially further here. But, you know, this is a trader's life, right? And traders are paid to take their shots against previous highs and lows. What was really interesting, of course, is how, you know, traders hunting a trade against this previous high were rewarded. So, you know, this is a real battle point right here. And frankly speaking, for the trader, I actually think it's not a bad area to take a shot, but you got to understand, you be working with stops. You know, if the trade fails, you just simply got to walk away. Thomas said that he was going to, and actually we had some interesting news articles that we want to talk about here. You know, little ideas. We went and bought some of this candy yesterday. I think they're working. And, you know, regardless of what Bitcoin does, if you do get charts that look like this, and this thing could very easily double, triple, you know, going forwards, you know, even if Bitcoin loses 10, 20%, you know, it's going to oscillate around. I think there's still money to be made, you know, positioning yourself in these alts for the spring rally. So I am actively in there buying. And actually, I even bought EVR. I got filled on this thing overnight right off of this original double bottom here. So, you know, TRI is active on the buy side in these altcoins, but with regard to Bitcoin itself, maybe I'm just going to cool my jets a little bit here. And I also noticed too, you know, names like ADA and stuff like, or ADA ADA is breaking the new lows. That's not generally a good sign. And you notice like Ethereum's got M's working here. You know, the ETC, we had an M come in a few days ago. Now it's actually just now working its way back down into support. You know, Brian's never been a fan of the Ripple story, so seeing this M come in here on Ripple actually makes me happy. But, you know, even things like the Verge, it's starting to break down as well in US dollars. So market's still looking pretty heavy here, folks. And, of course, you know, I can always bring it back up. But, you know, you guys know full well the cycle study guys and what they're thinking. You know, you don't have to be caught totally on the, you know, wrong side of Bitcoin here. There are ways to shelter yourself. And I noticed that the gold proxy is moving up nicely here. And we have that trade on. We've had that trade on for quite a while here. And NBT, you know, this is the one that I was a little sore at for not getting in when it was moving up here. So we just worked our bids, got our fills, and, you know, we're sitting pretty happy there. I know Thomas wants to talk specifically about crypto. I'll just make a quick mention about currencies and broader market. I actually think that the NASDAQ and tech stocks are going to lead us higher here. I think that the industrial names, the banking names, stuff like that that are tied to the yield curve, they're kind of stuck right now. But I do see that technology, and it's probably just going to be just raw earnings power, is pressing and very close to new highs. So I actually think we're going to see tech actually a leader here going forward. And, I've often seen this in my career. A lot of new people to trading don't see this, and that's fine. But it would make sense for tech to do well if oil does indeed top out here and start to break down in earnest. And that's simply because purchasing managers have a choice of whether they want to spend money on energy. And if energy prices are high, they really don't have any choice. If energy prices start coming off, then purchasing managers can start thinking about, allocating capital to things like productivity tools. And, technology is a really big boon there. Profile wise, I think we've been talking for a while that we've been thinking the market needed to come back down. If I'm not mistaken, there are traders, though, that still have long setups working off of higher time frames. But, if your stop levels get tripped on those setups, you better hop.
Interesting. Very high stress, high anxiety.
Wow. Okay. I get the impression Mr. Bear is a bit anxious right now. Is that what I'm hearing? Oh, look at that. It's hanging in there. It's hanging in there. It hasn't broken yet. Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick mention of broader market, what I saw happening in the crude market and how that might be directly affecting tech. What I do find interesting, too, is the U.S. dollar's put in a little bit of an inside bar reversal, harami, whatever you want to call it. We've been talking about this megaphone extremely wide range here on the U.S. dollar. I don't necessarily have any breakdowns on the yen or the euro right now. Maybe it's just more sideways. But what I did notice, which was really interesting, is that if we go and look at, say, Bitcoin price in yen, we haven't broken yesterday's lows yet. And we haven't broken these lows yet either. So it is interesting that Bitcoin priced in US dollars terms is, has broken yesterday's lows and is coming up against this support line. So this almost looks to me like this is a function of US dollar being strong and, the yen and it'd be interesting to look at BTC in euro terms. And this is a U.S. dollar driven selling versus, the Asian markets. Okay, so enough of that. New ideas for you, just out of Brian. I'm very interested in this new economy coin, and I put in a cute little 4-hour double bottom here. I don't have almost none of this on the books because we sold, on these insane rallies. We end up selling most of our positions, and I hadn't really started buying this one back. But I have gone and worked a bid here at 32.50. Along very similar, the same sort of lines as this candy. And I would encourage everybody to just create a list of pot coins and take a real good look at the pot coins as they're sort of coming into their 420 event. Okay, so that's the rhetoric out of Brian. I sure hope that helped. I was a bit convoluted. But nonetheless, Mr. Bear, how you feeling this morning? Mr. Bear's in a trade right now, so he's a little stressed, I would imagine.
We just broke to new lows, so I'm done.
Okay, so he hopped off. Yeah, okay, so you can see the forwards are breaking here. So, I don't, if anything, as a trader, this isn't a bad shot to take. And actually, this is really interesting. He was only in the trade about 5-10 minutes. Traders, Hogue used to always tell me, and the group, the good part about taking trades at these kind of levels is you're going to find out very quickly whether you're right or wrong. And, it sounds to me like Mr. Salmon Hunter found out very quickly that he was wrong, and he just made the professional decision, I got to get out of here. Okay, so enough of Brian's rhetoric. You could talk about this trade if you want, but why don't you sort of take the helm here and tell us a little bit about what you're thinking right at the moment? And I'll go and find that Demon Hunter chart I was posting last night.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I want to start out here going with Bitcoin again. We've got, let's see, on the daily chart, you can see we've got a bearish divergence working here on the higher time frame. My chart's pretty ugly with all the lines on it as usual, but you can see this fib is no longer going to be helpful for us here. So we're just going to take that away. These lines I drew off the hourly, I'm going to keep those on for now. But if you take a look at our fib retracements from this range here, and we'll see this on the lower time frame, keep in mind that 38.2, we spent a good couple hours consolidating around the 9,500 area on forwards, and we just broke down. It was almost about 30 minutes before the daily brief started. We were sitting, let me just bring it up now, talking too much about the hourly without having it up. Just keep in mind that bearish divergence is working. So on the hourly here, you can see that we consolidated. If this comes up and the fibs look good, let's switch these fibs to the right side so it's nice and easy to see. And there we go. Labels are on our right. All right, that is the wrong fib. All right, sorry about that. But as we saw earlier in the week, we did touch 78.6 and back off pretty precipitously on this dump here. I don't know why my screen is taking so long, but anyway, on the hourly, this was the 38.2 level, and you can see this just didn't happen. We tried to rally off these lows from all the news that came in yesterday, and it looked like we were going to reverse up until, again, 30 minutes prior to, and then we just got this nasty uptick in volume, and we started to see selling just come up in huge waves just in about the last 45 minutes. A lot of sellers have.
Somebody must have said something somewhere. Can somebody look on the news wires and see if some SEC guy or something shit on somebody's head?
Yeah, so I know there's a couple rulings that we're waiting on. Those may have been coming out, but yeah, who knows at this point. I'm not sure that headlines are really the ones that are driving the market, much so what's happening behind the scenes here. You can see this ABCD brings us, this isn't well drawn here. So this ABCD will bring us right around into the reload zone of this larger range here. So like I was saying before, the consolidation at 38.2 around this area, and we're heading quickly toward the 50% area. This yellow line, of course, was our long-term downtrend on our daily chart, where we kissed it and then started trading above it. And of course, on Brian's exchange, we saw that Japan was closely obeying that downtrend line and had not definitively closed above it. Now, as far as what I was seeing this morning prior to entering this trade, was that I thought I'd be able to get some kind of long bounce against these lows here. So I took a blind trade to the bottom end of this range, and we bounced $100, but it wasn't enough for me to lock in my 10% profit. So I set my stop at the bottom of that past tail here, which I'll show you on the 15-minute chart. This tail here, so this preceding candle is actually going to correspond to prior lows to the left. And here we go. This was my stop here, 90.60, and we broke down, and that's it. My trade was in and out. So it was a sucky one. Usually I'd like to wait for some market structure, but on trades like this, I see them come away a lot faster than they do to put in market structure. Could we still do that? And we're just busting some lows or busting some stops that people may have working from prior trades. Yeah, that could be what we're seeing here. But now I'm thinking that a good trade that will come in will materialize in the form of a W. Like this tried to come in here, and you can see this W just turned into an M. And that was all there was to it. So that trade is busted. I'd be watching for a break on the 15-minute of this MACD low. To me, this is where the serious sell volume was yesterday. This may just be follow through and again, stop hunting. So take your draw your line from the bottom of this MACD here. And if we can break below that, then you're going to see more follow through and some serious follow through. In my opinion, the large dump is coming to not necessarily a conclusion, but it's going to slow down here. I don't see this really ramping up just yet. If we get, 3, 4, 5 more candles that have higher volume than back here, then I'm going to get real worried that into the weekend we're just going to dump hard. But I'm still hunting longs in this area, and I do think that the sell volume is coming to a slowdown. So that's my thought process on Bitcoin. Let's take on forwards price action. Let's take a look at the forwards here. So we're breaking down again. You can see from yesterday that we did have that solid breakdown, and then we bounced into the evening hours when we were thinking about maybe taking a long position, but that was a little early. And again, here we're in the danger zone. We're still minus 100 on spreads. I don't like that. This still looks really disgusting. We are coming into a bit of support in terms of what I like to see on spreads. So that could potentially support a short-term bounce if we do break down really hard here, and it looks like we're trying to. So this is a 6 hour. This candle closes, or this line closes in 36 minutes. So there's going to be a bit of a fight here, and I may or may not decide what my trade will be based on these forwards. If this does break down, I'm going to be a lot more reluctant to take that long. So I'll keep my eye on that. It looks like that candle will close at the top of the hour. So before we sign off, I'll take one more look at it for you guys, and I'll let you know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, this is, if anything, I would call this kind of market sort of knife catchy here. For the people that are kind of like, well, I'd rather have like lower anxiety trades, things where we know that the trend is established and it's relatively calm. This is not that type of market, people. So please, if you are relatively new to this and you're unsure, just leave it alone. You don't need to touch it right now. You don't have to be a hero. Just cool your jets. There was something I thought this was interesting. I posted this last night, and I had sort of said that, last night I looked at this and I went, oh boy, this looks pretty problematic. And I actually posted in the lounge, I said, I can see Joshua just sitting there laughing at us all right now. So, if you want levels to watch for, if we do lose this level in earnest, couple gaps here right around Mountain Man. Look left, right? You can see where, really this is all just straight line here, right? So gap, gap, kilo, 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 kilo. So this is where the support is. And then, of course, if this is all busted in some sort of great panic, we still have a couple gaps right off of the original lows. I'd be really interested to see what the news is that's actually driving this move, because Thomas and I were, and I actually found a really cool site. I like to watch these Market Watch guys because they give a relatively, actually, I'm not sharing my screen, sorry. There is that Joshua gap chart. And here, I'll even throw that in the lounge if anybody wants it. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I know. I fucked up. Sorry. I'll go on YouTube. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? All right, so hopefully you can see that there. But I wanted to just mention that the guys here at MarketWatch have created this crypto news page. And I have a funny feeling that this is actually going to be a relatively handy little reference for me going forward. If you do want to pay attention, if you want to follow it, that's cool. Now this is interesting, right? I mean, the interesting thing is that the actual leaders to the downside is Mr. Dickhead himself. So, and also ETH. We've kind of warned you guys recently. If there's a dangerous market right now, I actually think it's this ETH. That looks really, really bothersome. But Thomas and I were just reviewing the news, and it's interesting. We'll keep an eye on this. There is a young gentleman who's trying to create like credit card points through crypto using a credit card that's specific he is tied to crypto. So really cool, interesting developments. Did see somebody in the lounge had mentioned this as Thomas was talking there, and Thomas and I were talking a little bit about this. Interestingly enough, I might spin this as a positive, not a negative. Thomas, you kind of thought this was a positive, eh?
Yeah, they were smaller exchanges that I don't think handled a significant amount of volume, but regulators came in and were like, hey, we really don't like the way that you're securing your assets. We don't like the way that customers are interacting with your website. So we're going to suspend you until you put into effect stronger security. So the two exchanges, I forget their names. Brian, does it say in that article what the two, or is it FSHO and BitStation? Were those the two? Yeah.
I think so. I've never heard of them before, but I know I'm just trying to figure out what are the drivers here. I actually saw that like last night when we were studying price. Like I came back and I had posted in the lounge. I was like, well, let's. And I thought this was really funny because I had posted in the lounge. It was about 7, 8 o'clock last night, and I had said, let's find OKCoin. I had said, all right, so the and price was coming into here, and I had said, all right, let's see how the Japanese are feeling after their lunch break. And it was interesting. I don't think it was necessarily just Japan. I actually think it was also sort of Asia, because I turned on CNBC, and literally at this point where the market turned last night. CNBC, I turned on the TV because actually I think my internet went down or something. CNBC, literally they said, oh, the Hang Seng is rallying violently, and it was up like 400 or 500 points following everybody coming back from the lunch break, which I thought was so funny. I was like, hey, that's my line. You're not allowed to use that line. And so, you know, I actually got the impression that when those news articles about them pulling down those exchanges, I actually got the impression that the Japanese came back from their lunch break and they were like, okay, well, this is relatively positive. And I got a funny feeling. I mean, just call me crazy, but I got a funny feeling that really what they just did here was they just went after this liquidity pool right here. But what was the news that just drove this? I'm not quite sure what the news is. That seems a bit out of left field, but anyway, we'll see what happens. This is for, you know, full disclosure for everybody. This is just purely a paper trade. We'll see what happens. But I got a funny feeling that there's just some funny business going on here. Notice that the volume really hasn't come in on the downside here on this. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Okay, and I apologize, everybody. I'm actually in kind of a really weird sort of headspace the past sort of few days. I noticed that we had a really big full moon there just last week. And I've just been noticing personally that I'm a little bit sort of discombobulated. I wouldn't be surprised. It'd be interesting just to get feedback from the site, how you guys are feeling, right? Do you actually notice it in your life that something's a little bit odd? I don't know. So I'm wondering whether some of the market behavior too is also predicated on some sort of celestial event or something like that. But Brian, of course, is crazy that way. All right, where do we want to go next, Mr. Bear? What do you think we should talk about next?
I want to talk about this Mt. Gox thing a little bit more. Yesterday, I made a comment that the trustee was selling over the counter, and I thought that I read that somewhere, and I can't find the information that led me to believe that he was selling OTC. And there's something on Reddit where you can follow the cold storage wallets that these coins were stored in. And if you take the dates that these coins were moved and plot them against a chart, you get some really interesting information. So for those of you that can see my screen.
Yeah, let's take a look. What do you got here, sir?
I've taken the amount of Bitcoins that were moved out of cold storage from the blockchain. You can track all this stuff and verify it. And I decided to verify it myself. And I plotted this here. So the first sale from the trustee happened on December 18th, which, you know, if the guy was a trader, I'd say, damn, that guy did a pretty good job moving his money, or moving these 2,000 Bitcoins out of cold storage and into, I believe, is Kraken. I did not check the address to see if it was verified by Kraken. I don't even know how to do that. The idea is that they did move these coins to Kraken, and what I thought would have been the smart thing to do, and what I did think I read, was that they would sell them OTC. What the United States does whenever they have coins that are either, you know, confiscated or need to be sold, is they hold an auction outside of these exchanges. Now, if this idiot is selling these coins on the open market, it's just very, very irresponsible of him. You don't do that. That it's almost creating a situation where this guy's responsible for holding all of these coins. And first of all, he hasn't even converted those coins to a SegWit approved address. That's my first gripe with this whole thing. So he's using this old, you know, he hasn't converted them to SegWit. That's all I'm going to say about that. But whether or not he is openly selling these on the market, it's hard to tell. But you can see that on the 18th, when he sold 2,000 Bitcoins, it was pretty close to the top of the market. Is 2,000 Bitcoins going to move this market that far down? I mean, if you liquidate them all at once, I mean, I don't see at this area of the market that happening. But when he's moving something like 6,000 Bitcoins on the 22nd, and you see tails like this happening, it really makes you wonder, is this guy just, you know, he's being a market taker. He's not trying to be the market maker by setting his orders. He's just selling them at the market. So dumb. And you're kind of seeing this, and it's really hard to imagine that he is selling these things on that day that these coins move. And there's no 100% way of verifying that, okay, he sent these coins to the exchange, he liquidated them at the market price, and then we see this massive tail down. But we're seeing evidence of that. I mean, look, you have this daily candle, sell 2,000 coins, and then we're back up again. Sure, you've got massive, massive tails here, but I mean, you're seeing another massive tail come in on the 22nd. Then on January, or he doesn't liquidate any coins at all. And you don't see any tails coming in on the marketplace here. And sure, I could be using a Kraken chart here to verify this, but it's going to happen across all the exchanges anyway. So you can look, no massive tails coming in after that liquidation of 6,000 coins. Then on January 17th.
So he liquidated these coins into US dollars?
Yeah, this is the way that the bankruptcy trustee is handling things, and the way that bankruptcy law is laid out in Japan. Essentially, you had to convert all of the claims that were pegged to a US dollar price. So if you had, say, 100 Bitcoins on Mt. Gox, your 100 Bitcoins would only be worth and pegged at $483 per Bitcoin. So therefore, at the time, that's what the price was. And since that was set as the precedent and as the price at that time, according to Japanese law, you can't change it based on an asset's change in value. So this is why everyone involved in this situation is trying to move this case out from bankruptcy and into something called civil rehabilitation, in which we would be able to get coins back. And what really boggles my mind here is the guy sold all these into cash, where he could have, and with the intent of returning people's claims at that $483 per coin peg back into yen. So he liquidated these into yen, not into US dollars, excuse me. And his intent is to return that yen equivalent to the users of Mt. Gox. So in my opinion, what he's trying to do here is just at least lock in that basal value. If Bitcoin does drop to zero, at least people have something left. So that's probably what I'm thinking.
Sorry.
But hang on, let me finish here, Brian. The other thing that he could have done is that he could have just allocated these coins away from the other wallets and just been like, okay, we're going to peg your claim at $483 per Bitcoin. If you have 100 coins, that's roughly 48,000 and change. So why doesn't he allocate, say, 4.5 Bitcoins per, whatever that claim would be? He allocates that amount in Bitcoins to those individuals instead of moving the market like this. And that's what I have a really hard time understanding. And, that's the only way I can see him rationalizing it, is that he thinks that at least he's going to return something in case this turns into nothing. So, Brian, sorry for cutting you off there.
I just, no, hey, you can cut me off any day of the week, dude. You're the man. Was Mt. Gox, when people traded in Mt. Gox, was it all quoted in US dollars or was it trading in yen?
It was traded in US dollars, but because the bankruptcy proceedings are conducted in Japan, now everything is converted into yen.
Yeah, man, confusing as hell. I'm just wondering whether we should do your study off the yen denominated price. I wonder if that would give us some interesting tells.
I mean, it's hard to say, right? We don't know if he moved his coins and he sold them that day. The most interesting thing about
can you do me a favor and just take a camera shot of that picture, and I'll go and I'll put those dates on my yen chart and just see if it tells us anything?
Yeah, sure. I can give you the wallets.
Just give me. I don't want all that crap. Just give me the chart, and I'll just cut and paste the dates.
All right, you got it.
You did such a good job with that chart. I like that chart.
So the last thing I wanted to show on this was on February 5th.
Thanks, man.
Oh, Christ. That's, Brian, you're going to have to take over here.
All right. Yeah, I will. If you want to throw yourself on mute, totally cool. So Thomas is having a little bit of a weather issues in Philadelphia. It's a bit of a challenge.
It went off again. Unfortunately, my apartment, we had about a foot of snow, and we were getting leaks through here, and my fire system is short-circuiting. But I want to get this off before this fire alarm thing goes off again, is that on February 5th was the last liquidation that happened, and there were 3 different wallets that held 6,000 Bitcoins each. And those
February 5th?
Yes, February 5th. And if you
see... that was like the day before the bottom, wasn't it?
Exactly. So this is why we don't know. Is he actually selling them on the day that he moves the coins, or is he selling them the day after? But I mean, this is a pretty big coincidence here. These 2 candles, that many Bitcoins, if you market sold, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, all these articles are coming out that Mt. Gox is responsible for the market crashing. And
makes sense. Sure, makes a heck of a lot of sense.
It really is hard for me to say that it isn't their response. It isn't because of them.
Right.
It's like we're all getting.
Somebody, Benjamin says here about how many more coins does this clown still have to sell?
So here's the thing. There's a lot of misinformation out on the media and on the news wires about this. And as far as what needs to be liquidated still, this is all that's supposed to be liquidated for now. If, however, this does not proceed, Mt. Gox does not come out of bankruptcy and move to civil rehabilitation, there's $1 billion worth of Bitcoins left. And that's about 180,000 more coins that still need to be liquidated.
How much is on your screen here? 10.
This is roughly 35,000, I believe.
So we're only about a third of the way through this torture.
But, I mean, they shouldn't be liquidating all this into yen, depending on, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of moving parts to this, including other entities that still need to be paid, like Mark Karpel's old company called T-Bane, which Mt. Gox owes a considerable amount of Bitcoins to. And also there's this CoinLab lawsuit with this guy named Peter Vensons, who's an absolute criminal with what he's done in the past and what he's continuing to try to do, keeping these coins locked up, where he's kind of filing lawsuit after lawsuit, trying to keep things from proceeding. And if those things can be resolved, this will proceed much faster. And moving into civil rehabilitation, that is it's going to happen much faster once those are resolved. So the goal here for all of us creditors is to move out of bankruptcy to prevent not only these coins from being further liquidated, but to give the creditors, us, back Bitcoins. At this current rate, we're going to receive about 20 to 24%, it seems like, of whatever the claim was. And depending on the results of this investigation, which the bankruptcy trustee publicly stated that he is inquiring to United States justice officials and other people in the US responsible for the arrest of Vinnick and the BTCE guy who was accused of stealing roughly $4 billion in Mt. Gox's assets. If there's some kind of dialogue between the United States and bankruptcy trustee and the estate of Mt. Gox, this could take a whole lot longer, but there could be a lot more coins returned to the estate.
So Payman saying here, the next meeting is the end of September. Is this guy on pause until that event?
Yeah. So it's not that he's on pause. It's just that the next creditors meeting isn't until September, but the civil rehabilitation movement has been filed. The court needs to rule on that, and that can happen before the next creditors meeting. The idea right now in the community is that this could happen within the next couple months on the long end, let's say, on the long end of the side. So we'll know probably by May or June whether or not civil rehabilitation will go through. And
well, I do like that because you know me and my crazy cycles. I feel very comfortable now looking for the bottom to come in early May. Okay. So I wonder if there's some sort of ruling around that sort of thinking that might correspond with that date. It's really interesting that you mentioned that, you know, like 18,000 coins on the 5th. Somebody obviously knew, because do you remember when we were sitting here on the 6th and the market started to come in? The volume on this day just started to pour in. So somebody must have known about this. You know what I mean? Does that sound at all logical? It seems like it to me.
It's hard to say, right? Because the question you have to ask is, why were these Bitcoins starting to liquidate on December 18th? And a lot of people were like, well, the trustee was waiting for the top of the market and he wanted to sell them at a good price. I call bullshit on that. There's no bankruptcy trustee that knows how to trade. In my opinion, he was just given the go-ahead by the court that it's okay to start liquidating some of these assets as per Japanese bankruptcy law. So I think he just got really lucky up here, and everyone else just got goxed. We all got goxed again, down on
this Karpelès guy just won't go away.
You know, and he's trying his hardest to like come up with a solution for civil rehabilitation. He's reached out privately to a lot of big name investors who would be interested in buying the exchange if this can transition from bankruptcy to civil rehabilitation. That's the biggest thing here.
So it's interesting how on your chart, it shows BTC at a new high there. But notice the Japanese yen Bitcoin chart on my chart, market did not go to a new high there on that 17th, 18th date, eh? So, you know, you know, obviously we're not going to solve the world's mysteries today, but it sure is an interesting conversation. And thank you very much for this very detailed report. That's really cool. Thank you, Thomas. Sure. I don't know. We're getting in sort of the latter part of today's presentation. Is there anything else that we wanted to sort of bring to the community's attention while we're sort of winding today up?
There is one more thing, and that's the SEC. This came out yesterday, but I think we didn't get to cover it.
What do you think? Let's give Thomas some feedback. Do we appreciate him putting in the work and creating these interesting studies for us? Let him know, you know. We want to, and, you know, you guys over on YouTube and people when you're on the site, you know, let Thomas fucking know. Bill put in fucking in, so that just came out of my mouth. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, I'm very appreciative, but I want you guys to let Thomas know that he's fucking kicking ass here, man.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so what do we got here? SEC. Oh boy, yeah, you know me.
Yeah. So
Oh,
the
look at
SEC.
that. What the heck language is that? Mitzi? Wait, is that? I didn't even know I could type on a keyboard like that. All right. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to get off topic. Okay, Thomas, go. I'm gonna put myself on mute because I seem to be talking too much here today. Go.
All right. So the SEC is issuing warnings here against any quote unquote unlawful online platforms that trade digital assets, right? And they're arguing and saying that any exchanges that are offering ICOs or token trading, they're considered securities. And they're considered exchanges that are trading securities. And they don't care where you are in the world, but if you have any kind of customer that has a US passport, is a US citizen, you are technically legally bound to abide by United States securities law, and you must register with the SEC. God, sorry everyone. Brian.
Yeah, and obviously you can see the SEC would rather Thomas not tell our community about this. It is interesting if well, NSA, SEC, whatever the hell you want to call it, come up with any letters you want. It is interesting though how that the Americans are really trying to reach out across the world. Like what Thomas said. If you have any U.S. citizens that are customers of yours, man, whatever. I think if they come down too hard, the United States is going to alienate themselves. But you guys even remember our, the Bitcoin dad kind of guy, the SEC guy, he was not friendly at all, was he? And I got a feeling that they might even be playing like good cop, bad cop here. So, Bitcoin dad, CFTC guy, he's going to be friendly. This SEC guy, we obviously have to watch out for him.
Yeah, and I think the message here is that the SEC really wants to make. All right,
You tried your best, man. I tell you, maybe it's FBI. Who knows? But I would just simply say that, if you are a U.S. citizen, then you better watch your butt. If you are not a U.S. citizen, I don't know whether this really actually means anything to us. The sad part about all of this is that, when we go about our business, we don't even actually get involved in any of this nonsense because I know you guys. I know Tom. I know Payman. I know Jeremy. I know Benjamin. These guys are shit on my head if I go and fucking buy some of these idiot ICOs. They've just got scam written all across them. So I don't really expect our audience, our community to get sucked into this. It's not really it's not even really a consideration for me. I don't even buy ICOs. You know me, I like to see price action, right? But the problem here is that the public is stupid, right? Think of Paris Hilton, right? And think of the boxer guy. What's his name? Holyfield. Right. That's really who the SEC is trying to protect. And frankly speaking, I think it's in their best interest. It's just that, the SEC, what I find really interesting, what I saw just the other day was there are states like Wyoming that are actually passing legislation locally, making all this stuff legal. So it's going to be really interesting. This is going to come down to one of these states' rights versus federal rights. In the United States of America, which is, a long history. If you like a U.S. history, go and you could argue that's the whole justification for the U.S. Civil War to begin with, was this idea of states' rights versus the federal government. So I don't think that this is, set in stone. It's done. This, in essence, it becomes one of these sort of jousting matches. And the SEC is shooting a shot across the bow. Really, I think, like I said, my simple commentary here is I don't even think any of us really have to worry about any of this stuff. The only thing you have to worry about is if you are a U.S. citizen and your government has made it illegal for you to participate on these exchanges, you better watch out from that regard. And just, you just got to call a spade a spade. Thankfully for, us Canadians, Big Brother hasn't come down that hard. But if you are a U.S. citizen, you definitely have those issues to deal with. All right. I think, we're sitting here at about 50 minutes on the day. Thomas is having a little bit of problems, with his apartment. Anybody who's actually in Philadelphia area, I know Julian, they had a snow day yesterday. So, it's interesting. I have no idea whether this trade's going to work, but it is interesting to see how the market's just sort of parked itself right on the 113 level here. So we'll see how this plays out. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit more play up top here. And this drop seemed rather precipitous, and I still don't even know if there was any news. Well, actually, we're not showing you my screen. Sorry, there we go. So this OKCoin paper trade that I was talking about earlier this morning, it's still just sitting there right at the 113 level. And as I said just a moment ago, I don't even know if there was any news that actually drove this, or whether this was just like the CME boys driving price down just to have some fun with the market. The weird part about trading is you just don't know. Nobody ever knows exactly what's going to happen. You just got to find your setups, trade your setups, follow your plan. Don't take too much of a risk on any one trade, and live by the sword. Live by the sword, die by the sword. A couple of alts maybe we'll finish off with today. Thomas, what do you think? Are you back?
No, I still got alarms going off here, but
okay.
Maybe I can do a brief on the bathroom if it's not too.
No, that's cool. It's cool. I mean, hey, talk about A for effort, right? Or yeah, E for effort, A for effort. I mean, Thomas is right in the middle of the shit storm, and he's trying to give you guys a S for salmon. Okay, he's trying to give you a report, and all hell's fucking breaking loose around him. I mean, talk about committed. Thank you, Thomas. Totally appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Couple things I would mention, maybe off of the site, things that sort of jumped out at me. Mike is doing just a fucking fantastic job with this Canadian stock group, our RRSP group, and constantly coming up with ideas. We had one little stock idea that I think actually it was a newer member had mentioned, and it put in a W. If you are interested in the RRSP group specifically for Canadians, and anybody who wants to practice the fundamental screening models and hunting good ideas in the stock market, you're more than welcome to join us. We are probably a site update. We had a little bit of a setback here recently with our migration to the new site, so that's probably going to be a bit delayed here, unfortunately. To facilitate, there's Jamie. Gotta love that guy. Jamie's just the fucking best. Actually, here, I gotta show my screen, don't I? Sorry, guys. We went ahead just to sort of facilitate the group's needs in the short term, and created a Telegram group for the RRSP group as well. And so the invites have gone out to the RSP group members. And as I said, we're finding some, just some fantastic ideas. And actually, this was really cool. This morning, this was an idea that we had that we reviewed in our last RRSP group meeting. Cute little, this is a weekly chart, eh? Cute little chart here. Nice internals, really pretty. So, it's not like there's a shortage of ideas in the stock market. And like I said, Mike actually had this one this morning. And, if this was an altcoin, you guys would be all over this shit, right? But for some reason, because it's the stock market, we're not interested. So I just wanted to give a heads up. You can see people are slowly joining the group. And Jamie, of course, Mr. PMA. Okay, Jamie is just, he's just, and this... I know I gush a lot about this, and I'm sorry, guys, I do this, but I got to say it repeatedly anytime I get the opportunity. I am so fucking blessed having all of you people in my life. Jamie is just another example of just, PMA for the win. Beautiful, just beautiful people. I'm so, talk amongst yourselves, getting a little verklempt here. it touches my heart. So great to see that we got the RSP group up and running. And by all means, if you are interested in the stock market and you would like a stock sort of centric, stock focused group to practice your fundamental screens, we've got that up and running. So I wanted to mention that, and of course, Mike is our sort of fearless leader in that group, and he's just a stand-up guy. There he is. He's in the lounge here. If you do have the opportunity, get to know this gentleman. He's just a real stand-up guy. What else do I want to mention here? China Tim. Now, anybody who wants to go down the rabbit hole, I love China Tim. He's always has something fun for me to look at. And the most recent offering China Tim's given me, shadow government statistics analysis behind and beyond government economic reporting. So, I mean, clearly, in our, and I hope you don't mind if I post this, Tim, but clearly, if you go to the grocery store, over the past 5-10 years, well, maybe not 5-10 years, but past 10-15 years, I always like to use the loaf of bread indicator. That's your real inflation gauge, right? And the loaf of bread's gone through the roof. So I love these kind of sites and this kind of stuff. I don't think it makes sense to trade off of this because the big boys, they are manipulating the data, just like these kind of sites tell you, because they're setting up trades, right? So, my feeling is that this is sort of like, you want to sort of, take the blinders off and, just get a nice look at one different perspective of the way the data is finessed and manipulated. Great. I don't know whether it makes sense to trade off of this kind of information, but I definitely think that it's just good sort of, we are students of the market. We are an educated class. All right, William, take it easy. Thanks for popping in. And it can't hurt you to at least expose yourself to this kind of information. You don't have to agree with it. I don't think it sets up trades, but it definitely gives you that sort of, this is a different perspective, and maybe it'll open your eyes in some regards. So thank you, Tim. I thought that was really cool link that you sent me, and I wanted to mention that. Couple of points that kind of jumped out at me that I thought I would just mention before I take off. Grim here, there's my phone number, please let's try and keep that off the screen. But Grim is planning on being in the lower mainland here relatively soon. And we're going to try and have a daily brief with Grim sitting beside me like we did with Alex in that Coinergy show. So watch out for that. Grim's going to be in person on the daily brief soon. I'm not quite sure when he's coming to town, but when he does, you have a hell, I'll give you my bed if you want. But I can't wait to. I don't know. Maybe we should go get costumes. Well, what I don't know, pants, nah. But I think we made the point that shoes are optional for that particular hangout. We have an old alumni, which I thought was really interesting. Garrett brought this to my attention. Yeah, that would be funny if actually Grim and I set ourselves up like the two kids in Garrett. Actually, Garrett was the one who found that image for me. Let's see if I can find it for you. Garrett found the two little kids. Oh geez, I have no idea where it is. Let's see. Hold on, see if I can find this. I think it's right here. And where are you, you little cuties? So Garrett was the one who actually found this image for me, and I've tweeted it out and all that kind of stuff. You guys have probably seen this before, but wouldn't that be funny if Grim and I got these costumes all ready to go? Wouldn't that be hilarious? I might seriously think about that. So anyway, but it was interesting. I don't know whether Michael, one of our TRI alumni is selling himself, on one of these, LinkedIn sites or whatever the hell these things are called, at $25 an hour. And and Garrett was like, well, why don't you get him to come over and, do some tutorials? Because Michael's a very, very smart guy. He is an alumni of this school program. And you know what's so funny is, let's see if I can find it. Where the hell is it? Somewhere in here. I apologize, Garrett, if I'm showing shit I shouldn't be. I'm terrible at this stuff. Here he is. Michael actually was the one who called the Ethereum bottom, and even says here, famously called the Ethereum bottom in 2017. But what I thought was hilarious about this is Michael, well, hilarious, I don't know, but Michael actually advertises that he's a graduate of our school program. So, Michael, if you're watching this, get your fucking ass over on the site, and we'll put you in the TA pool, and we can give you a hell of a lot better rate than $25 an hour. So that's just a message. I didn't get to mention that when I saw that from Garrett a few days ago, but now that we have a bit of time here with Thomas MIA, I thought I'd just mention that as well. Probably the last thing I want to leave off with, and I thought this was so cool, and this is, guys, this is where this whole 1 + 1 = 3 really works. A new site member, he hasn't taken the education program, so he doesn't quite understand the sort of trader's life, working off a trading plan, working with setups. So let's all communally help Bugra work with trading plans and, you know, define setups. But I got to tell you, I was very, very impressed with the work that he put in, creating his cute little algo to tell you when the market is in fib locations, and then when the indicators are confirming, divergence and bullish and bearishness on his little algo. And I've just been keeping it on the screen. I'll keep it on the screen. It's a cute, like we did this last term with the level 2ers. We created an RSI overbought, oversold kind of screening system similarly. But this is where if we can work together, we can make this place a lot better. We can really expound on each other's strengths. You know, Benjamin and Jeremy have awesome scripts. You like see Thomas's chart has these funny little white and yellow candles on it. That's Jeremy's contribution to us. You know, I love this sort of, 1 + 1, we all work together = 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the final note that I'm going to make for today, if you are interested, and it's just purely an open invite, we can pay you on an hourly basis, but the person that we asked to help us build the front end of the website really kind of fucked us over here. So we want to get this website up and running for you guys, so that you guys can take advantage of all the cool screening tools that Sjord has built on the back end. If anybody is interested in helping us get this project along, and you are half decent at writing front end websites and all that kind of stuff, let us know, because we have a vacuum now that needs to be filled and we need some help. So if that is your thing and this does interest you, you can PM me, you can PM Julian, you can PM Sjord, you can send an email to admin@therationalinvestor.co. And always understand, guys, that I'm not in this to make $1 million. Like $20 a month subscription to a site like this is almost comical. We're not in here to get rich. We're in here to make a fucking kick-ass community. So if you guys are interested in helping move this train along, and we did get slightly derailed here recently, let us know, because we are looking for help. So I just wanted to give that as a sort of final thought for the community to think about here today. Okay, guys? And a big shout out, because I see you guys working really hard at scripts and your trading algorithms and stuff. Let's help Bugra, because I think Bugra is on a great course here. He's building some really interesting tools. And let's all work together to make this a really fucking kick-ass place. Okay, so I think we'll probably leave it at that for today. I do believe that there are names for you to be a buyer out there. Totally believe it. Slow and steady wins the race. Just nibble. There's no hurry to be in a big rush. As this story builds out, we can always add to it. Josh was in the lounge almost on a daily basis. I think he gave us something like about a half a dozen different coins that he was buying overnight. I got filled on a stink bid here, EVR overnight. So I am in here actively buying. I actually bought something today. So there's no reason why we can't be active in the market. We just have to be very selective of what we're interested in. Try and hunt those setups, find those 3 reasons, and of course, take appropriate risk. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that for today. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Hey, Bagra is talking right now. Oh, no, that was from yesterday. Somebody just sent me a message. But anyway, good luck, Thomas. Are you there? Are you alive? No, I think he's MIA. So why don't we leave it at that? We don't have Shane to give us a meow. So do we have any other voiceovers? I guess we don't have any other characters. Rob, can you give us a shark sound? I don't know what that sounds like. But anyway, you guys have yourselves an no DB requests. Well, we're running out of time here. We're already after 10 minutes past the hour, and I really wanted to talk a little bit about Graham and Garrett and Tim and stuff. So I think we probably should leave it for that for today, okay? But you're right. I've kind of let this slack here a little bit. There you are. When are you going to talk about my fucking coin? That's what he's really wanted to try and say. All right. For payment, since he's such a stand-up member of the community, and everybody else can be like, hey, what am I? Like fucking dog food? Chicken shit? What's going on here, man? You know what I'll do? Why don't we we'll make it a priority to spend 15 to 20 minutes tomorrow. So Thomas, if you hear this, let's try and because tomorrow is Friday. So let's try and actually China Tim and Payman. Bear. You're screwed now. All right, everybody. If you want to get in on the inside joke, you're gonna have to PM them. All right, everybody. Have yourselves a great day. Good luck, Thomas, in shoveling yourself out and fixing leaky roofs. Julian's right in there with you. Let's all, PMA for the win. Let's have some fun in the market. Play from a position of strength. There's no hurry right now. Let's let all of the noobs wash themselves out. Let's let the FUD bring prices back down into reload zones and start seeing divergences in structure to start setting bases. And let's all just be the professionals that we are. There's really nothing new going on here. There's going to be a lot of FUD as they sort of bring this premium out of the market. I think we're about halfway through this correction, so we still got a couple more months of slog to go. Just slow and steady wins a race. And if you need to come into TRI and come into the Daily Briefs in the lounge just for a little PMA, just to reassure you that, this is just pretty normal what's going on, then, do so. All right, guys, have yourselves a great day. I could just blab on forever. All the best, and bye for now.